Today we are talking about something that hits a little bit different when you're not in your 20s anymore. We're talking about what it's like to hit midlife on the homestead. Because as it turns out, you can have a pantry full of jars and a coop full of chickens, and you can still feel really lost in the middle of your own life. Some people call this a midlife crisis. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's kind of a recalibration. Because you hit your 40s or your 50s and you start thinking a few things. Why am I doing all this? Do I actually enjoy doing this, or did I just get used to surviving this after raising kids here and, now the dust is settling, and what am I doing? What do I want now that the dust is settled in my life? Kind of. And if you're on a homestead, it's extra weird because there's this narrative that if you have the simple life, you should not feel discontent. But guess what? You can still feel stuck, even if you've got dirt under your fingernails and loaves of bread rising in the kitchen. At some point, the mud boots don't quite fit the way they used to, and you start questioning a lot of things. And maybe it's because you realize you don't have to do all the things you were doing before. Like, you don't have to grow all the things. You don't have to raise all the animals. You don't have to put everything under the sun in the pantry. Or maybe your body is just tired out and it's like, girl, I don't want to shovel compost for 5 hours today. I don't. You guys, I literally got dizzy sitting up from that. Midlife is awesome. You start to question things like, should I still be doing this? Do I even want to do this anymore? Yes, I want to do this. But why does it feel so different? Shouldn't I have more figured out by now? I've been doing this for a hot minute. But you know what? This is the good part. Midlife is what gives you permission to pivot, to ask questions, to change up what you're doing, to completely reinvent how you're doing this Farmish thing. You can scale back, you can scale up if you want. This time is definitely about change. Maybe you used to make 10 loaves of bread a week. Maybe now you are lucky if you get through one loaf before it molds. Maybe now you've decided it's easier to buy your bread. That doesn't make you less Farmish. It just makes you honest about your life. And you know what nobody talks about? It's that your responsibilities in midlife change. And not all at once. It's a bunch of shifts that you barely realize are happening until one day you're standing in the kitchen wondering why you're still cooking for an army when there's not that many people at home to join you for dinner anymore. The kids get older and they move out. They don't need you in the same way anymore. At the same time, your parents are getting older and they might need you more. Maybe you need to help them out. Maybe you're just worried about them more. Maybe you're just feeling like you're emotionally on call all the time. You find yourself stretched in directions that are completely different than before. Meanwhile, the garden still needs weeding. The animals still need feeding. The pantry still needs to be stocked. But the rhythm of your house and your why for doing all of this, maybe it's changed. You used to cook a lot of food, right? Now you're wondering how to cut a recipe down for maybe 2 people, maybe 1 person. Maybe you're thinking, how long can I eat this for leftovers? Maybe you're thinking, am I even gonna make this recipe again? And this is a point where a lot of people start feeling lost. Like when your homesteading life was based on doing all the things, and now you're starting to question, do I need to do all those things? Does this make sense anymore? That's where you start feeling super lost. You start questioning everything. What is this next version of homesteading? Who is it even for? What is it even like? What does this look like when your hands are still really, really busy, but your house is way quieter? And you really thought you were gonna like that quiet, but it's a lot different than you thought it was gonna be. And you thought having all this time to pour into homesteading was going to be very different than it actually is. But you know what? It doesn't mean that the homesteading life is over. It just means it's different, and you're allowed to sit with what that means. You're allowed to sit in the discomfort and the weirdness of that until you figure out what the next stage looks like. You get to reimagine what fills you now. And maybe that means you need to stop watching some homesteading influencers on the internet, because your life right now might look very different than what they're talking about. And that's okay. The beautiful thing about midlife on the homestead is you know things. You're still here, you're still growing, you're still learning, but now you've got experience. You've got perspective, and maybe you've got a little bit of sass. Oh my word, it's hot out here. The sun, it has come out. You know how to fix a fence. You know when the weather's going to change. You know how to take care of your animals. You know how to grow things. You've learned all of this stuff, right? You've lived through really great seasons and really garbage ones. And now you've got the wisdom to know that this life isn't about doing all the things. It's about doing the things that make sense. It's about doing the things that matter, even if it takes you a little bit longer than it used to. So if you are feeling wobbly here in midlife, in the weeds, in the wild, in the craziness of what homesteading is, I just want you to know you're not alone, you're not crazy, you're just not 20 anymore.